loading, hey loading, hey loading, hey loading. Sean here from LINESINWAX. Today I want to talk to you about Burzum, the low-hanging fruit of black metal, isn't it? So time to grab onto that that succulent, ripe, low-hanging fruit and make a fucking video about it. Yeah, I'm talking shit and dicking around, but Burzum is one of my favourite fucking bands. So today I think it's time we talk about Burzum. Now, I'm not going to talk about the shit that Varg, Vikernes has done outside of Burzum. I'm not going to talk about ideology or race or any of the nasty shit that he might be doing or the boring shit he might be doing. So anything that he does outside of music, be it creating boring ass fucking role-playing games or murdering people and burning churches, I'm not interested in any of that. There's fucking plenty of that shit on the internet. There's fucking videos all over the fucking internet that tells you about the shit that went down in Norway and the controversy around Varg. I couldn't give a fuck about any of that. At least not anymore. When I was a teenager, I was like, whoa, man. But, you know, I'm not on some Lords of Chaos ass fucking, you know, controversy generating clickbait viewing bullshit. Go elsewhere. I'm talking about Burzum, the music, nothing else. I'm not your mother. I'm not telling you whether it's right or wrong to listen to bands like Burzum or any other bands that, you know, may have people behind it of certain ideologies. Police yourself, you idiot. Use your own fucking brain. Decide what you want to listen to. Decide what's wrong and what's right. Don't fucking come and at me in the comments about any of that shit. We're talking about the music of Burzum. So, as you may have heard, Burzum was formed as a one-man project in the early 90s, very, very early 90s, by a fella named Varg Vikernes. His Christian name was Christian Vikernes. So at least that's what he goes by on the first demo anyway. But yeah, he quickly took up the alias Varg. Talking of demos, the band was originally called Urakai. Potentially there were some other names. I don't fucking know. I'm not really interested in that shit. I'm interested in talking about the Burzum stuff. And the first thing you can really get canonically of the Burzum stuff is the old rehearsal demos. And I think these came about in 1991. They were a bit rough around the edges, but they are a good way of seeing what is going to come later, what was going to quickly come. But yeah, this is not one of those bands that particularly develops much from the demos, because the records are pretty fucking raw. Now, after the rehearsal demos that dropped in 1991, again, I'm not going into the ins and outs of what happened in the scene in Norway in the early 90s, like you can find that shit everywhere. But in 1992, the debut album from Burzum, the solo project of Varg Vikernes, Count Grishnak, Louis fucking Cachet, whatever this fucking name was, it dropped and it sounded like this. Now, I don't know about you, but this fucking rules. To me, there are probably two records that you could give to a newcomer to metal and go, this is what black metal is. Now, I think you could probably get away with any of the early Burzums or any of the early Dark Thrones. You know, for that first black metal experience, I think one of those would suffice. And I would pick Burzum Self-Titled and Dark Thrones Transylvanian Hunger to give to newbies. Check these fucking records out. Bang, like that. Have one copy of each. Boom, check that out. Check that out. See what you think of that. What do you make of them apples? You know, and if you don't like them, then maybe black metal isn't for you unless you're onto some dissection, Watain, fucking polished shite. Well, that's another story for another time. But as far as old school fucking Norwegian black metal, the second wave of black metal, you cannot get better, in my opinion, than Burzum. Early Burzum, self-titled, like this. Absolutely stunning album. Feeble Screams from Forests Unknown. That fucking weird, like, wheel back and forth sound of the guitar. And it kicks in. And it's not going to be as fast as you think it's going to be. It's not going to be as intense as you think it's going to be. Having listened to, I don't know, fucking Nick Barker playing in Dimmu Borgir, or, I don't know, maybe some other fucking mad shit, like Hellhammer in Mayhem, if you've ever heard Mayhem, then, you know, you think it's going to be pretty fast, pretty intense. But no, it's not. It's a little bit slower than your average black metal. Its blasts are a little bit off. Everything sounds a little bit shaky and raw and just rough around the edges. And it sounds like shit, to be honest. And in a way that I can't really explain. That's kind of the most endearing thing about it. It really conjures up this unique fucking atmosphere that is not really in that many albums. What I'm trying to say is, this fucking out of nowhere, out of the fucking misty fjords of Norway, you got this with that album cover and those feeble screams, like on the record, not the song name, just coming out of the stereo. And you're just like, what is this crazy shit? Like, what is going on here? This is like, music from the deepest, darkest forests. It's maybe not overtly satanic like a lot of other black metal. It's more to do with like creating a trance-like spell on the listener, and it does that perfectly. It really does. Side 2 mixes things up a little bit. You got songs like War, which are a little weaker in my opinion. I mean, they're obviously fucking legendary, right? It's obviously a legendary track, but it sounds really similar to a fucking Bathory song. I forget the title of it, but the War riff is almost identical to that. And the whole, like, I don't know what the fuck he was going for with War. I'm guessing he was going for that Bathory kind of sound, but it's very memeable, and it's become a meme, isn't it? And then you have songs like The Crying Orc, like this instrumental passage, which is very badly recorded, but actually is very nice, very moving piece of music. And then, of course, you've got the double-ended dildo of A Lost, Forgotten, Sad Spirit and My Journey to the Stars. Fucking nearly 20 minutes or 18 to 20 minutes of just solid, beautiful fucking black metal. And he's got this, like, as I said, it's got that trance-like element to it underneath it all. And the entire album ends with Dungeons of Darkness, which really hits that home, that like low, dark ambient kind of sound, which really, really just rounds out the whole thing as like a strange journey. And at the end, you're just lost in this darkness and you don't know where to go or what's coming next. And that's really, really where it leaves you. It's really interesting, really unsettling. And also, it makes you just think, well, fuck it, I just want to listen to the whole thing again. Often tacked together with the Burzum self-titled is an EP which came out not long after. And that EP is called Ask. It sounds a bit like this. Now, this is an outlier in the Burzum catalogue for the reason that it has someone else performing on it, and it has Samoth from Emperor playing bass. It also is a strange one because it's very hard to get, unless you go out looking for the original copies of this thing, which are, they are a part of musical history for various reasons. You won't really see represses of this. I know there was like a cassette done recently, I think, in some sort of crazy-ass box set, but for the most part, you will always see Ask tacked onto the end of versions of the self-titled. That's the version I have, which isn't particularly great. I'd rather things in their original format kind of guy, but I can't afford copies of Ask and self-titled. But there we go. So with this one, it's a strange little free song EP, which came with originally in its 12-inch form, came with a fucking lighter for you to burn some churches, obviously, and you've got that very infamous cover art of an arson that was supposedly undertaken by Count Grishnak himself. They were kind of just rubbing it in people's faces by using that burned out church as the cover of the album. Really kind of shocking stuff. Back when black metal was actually shocking and new and dangerous. Imagine that. But yeah, some of my favourite Burzum songs are on here. So the opening track, Stemmen fra Tarnet, probably fucking saying that wrong. Can't speak Norwegian, assuming it is Norwegian. Don't fucking care. Not gonna ever learn to speak Norwegian, so you're gonna have to fucking deal with it. So yeah, I mean, this is a really nice place to start if you've never heard Burzum. 3 songs, fucking chuck it on. It's probably 20 minutes of your time. Get on the Ask. Give it a go. Amazing. But he didn't fuck around. Like, he was a very busy guy, old Varg, when he went out stabbing people and doing other unsavory acts. Det som en gang var came in 1993. Now, Det som en gang var is basically the logical expansion of the self-titled. Things are a bit more well-rounded. The production's a little bit warmer, a little bit more together. The artwork, I think, maybe perfectly reflects the slight advancement in the kind of stuff that he was playing and the kind of technical proficiency. Just listen to songs like Key to the Gate or Lost Wisdom to get a handle on that. The riff writing really has developed, and you still got that old kind of dank, lo-fi black metal sound, but really things are pretty much entirely audible here, so you can't really shit on this for having bad production. Almost as good as, if not as good as, the self-titled. This is probably some people's favourite, I would imagine. Not everyone's going for self-titled or maybe Philosophem, which comes a bit later on. This is a perfect contender for one of the best black metal albums ever fucking written, and there's a reason for that. It's 40 minutes of solid fucking, proper like fucking Dungeons and Dragons / Lord of the Rings core fucking black metal. So Det som en gång var came out. This is an interesting fact. It came out the same month as that of Vikernes. Varg Vikernes murdered Euronymous. So Euronymous ran the label Death Like Silence, obviously, which put this record out. So not long after this label, the label released this album, Varg then went and murdered the proprietor of said label, which caused some problems, I'm sure, but that was it. Something happened, as you know, and then Varg went to jail for a while. But, like I said, he was a busy boy. 1994 saw the release of another album, which sounded a bit like this. Now, it's worth noting that he recorded a lot of his stuff before he went to prison. So when he was in prison, he was still releasing albums for a while. Now, this album is called Hvis Leset ta oss. No, I can't fucking speak Norwegian, as we've no doubt established. But it translates into English as in If the Light Takes Us, or Till the Light Takes Us, or something along those lines. So it was recorded in 1992. It's the same year as the Burzum self-titled, but it wasn't released until 1994, until Varg was in prison. Now this one switches things up a bit. Instead of having like regular length songs, Burzum was always gone for slightly longer length tracks. This one really like froze the fucking rule book out. We're talking like 14, 15-minute length songs. Det som en gång var, the title of the previous album, is the name of the opening track here, and it's 14 minutes and 20 seconds, and it is really where we start to see Burzum's songs and his songwriting and his, the type of shit that he's trying to get across to you. Remember I mentioned before that trance-like kind of state really starts to sprawl, and we get tracks like this, and we also get tracks like Tomhet, the final track on here, another 14-minute epic. Not that the others on here aren't epic either, but really 4 tracks, basically 3/4 an hour long. It is perfect. It's really perfect. And it marked a departure from the earlier stuff, a more of a progressive edge, far off into the fuzz, into the ambient synthesizers that run coarse underneath the fuzzy, coldness of the black metal. We get this trance-like state, and that is what is so magical and so important about early Burzum. Now, it doesn't stop there. This shit just keeps getting wilder and wilder, and you get another 2 years before we get another album, but it was worth the wait. So let's zoom forward from 1994 to 1996 to see what comes next. Philosophem is the 4th album by Burzum, the one-man project by Varg Vikernes, and it came out in 1996. It was the last thing that Varg recorded before he was sentenced to his prison sentence and had to serve his time. It was recorded in beginning of 1993, I think. So it's crazy how quickly he was banging these fucking albums out. So he sat on this fucking thing for 3 years. Finally got put out. 3 years later, yeah. So he recorded it in 1993, put it out in 1996. So it's Philosopher meaning philosophy. It literally translates to philosophy. What does philosophy mean? It's a philosophy term. There we are. Philosophy, borrowed from the ancient Greek. Right, whatever. I can't be fucking bothered. Anyway, so it's again another departure from the Burzum sound. We're talking. I think we've got 5 or 6 songs in this one. Longest album Burzum's done. I think it's 64 minutes. Crazy. We've got the 25-minute fucking ambient wall of noise piece called circumambulation of the transcendental columns of singularity. And that title is originally in Norwegian, so fuck am I even gonna try and fucking put that one put that one into words. It's not gonna happen. But you've got Jesus Dodd, the song Dunkelheit as well, just fucking fantastic. So Dunkelheit is probably one of the more well-known Burzum songs, the first track on this. Now, what's notable about this is that things really fall off the edge, fall off the deep end, really. The song, like I said, circumambulation of the transcendental columns of singularity. 25-minute ambient piece, very strange, very trance-like, very just still, disturbing, and the tension builds, but at the same time also quite relaxing. As far as the black metal goes, the production is extra fucking crispy and cold, and you're just dying in this fucking vat of mids, just this fucking horrible mids and trebles all just echoing around in your head, this swarm of fucking white noise of bees and shit. It's an interesting sound. There's also, I think you reportedly used a fucking helicopter pilot headset or some shit to record the vocals. That's why they sound the way they do. Again, interesting choice. Probably the shittiest sounding of all the original Burzum records, but a lot of people's favourite. Probably not for that reason, but for the unique atmosphere it conjures from its minimalism, from its odd kind of approach to songwriting. This, Philosophum, is Burzum off the deep end, at least in regards to its black metal core. So, that is Philosophum. What happened next then? We had a very interesting change. So the thing is, Varg was now in prison, right? He's now serving the longest fucking prison sentence you can in Norway, which I think is 20 years or something. He's serving 20 years, but he's run out of fucking albums. He's in prison. What's he going to do? So in one of the prisons that he was in, he was allowed to use a synthesizer, and he had this synthesizer where he could load the music onto a disc and sequence it, and then he could play it back, and it would sound like cheap, horrible MIDI music. and that's what he did. That's what came next. So that's it. In 1997 came Doughty Baldur's. Don't know if I'm saying that right, but that's Baldur's Death, essentially. Not Baldur's Gate, for all you fucking nerds out there playing advanced D&D. Not Baldur's Gate, Baldur's Death. And this was a market departure, a hell of a fucking departure. From what we would usually expect from Burzum. Burzum being, of course, one of the forerunners of the Norwegian black metal scene, drops what can only be described by today's standards as a dungeon synth album. Now this is I don't know, I would liken it to the long ambient piece that we had on Philosophum, but even that would be a lie, because these are fully instrumental kind of medieval music. It sounds like something you would hear when playing fucking, I don't know, Daggerfall or some 90s fucking PC game, like that. That's what this sounds like. It sounds like cheap MIDI music, and I don't know. A lot of people hate this thing. I don't hate it, because I do like a lot of dungeon synth, and this is one of the OG kind of fucking recordings before that genre was even really a thing. And it's an interesting window into a man who was just making music with the best that he could of the circumstances that he was in. I know it was entirely his own fucking his own fucking fault that he was in prison in the first place. As there's a review which Wikipedia puts out for this, highlights rather, for this album, and it's from Sputnik Music, who give the album 1.5 out of 5. And this is from Sputnik Music. It says that Doughty Baldur's is 40 minutes of a crazed neo-Nazi church-burning murderer playing a toy piano. It's only half as funny as it sounds. That's pretty fucking funny. That's a pretty good way of summing this up, really. But yeah, it's probably the one thing in the entire discography you could skip. It's pretty shit. So I don't know what happened, but Varg decided to make another album in the exact same vein as Baldur's Death. Hilidskjalf. Oh, this is good. Wikipedia. Hilidskjalf, Old Norse for Hilidskjalf. Thank you. Thank you, Wikipedia, for clarifying. I would have no idea what that fucking meant without you. Brilliant. So, anyway, I can't say any of this shit for shit. You know this. You figured this out. The difference between this one and the previous one, even though they're both recorded on like keyboards or whatever in prison, this was made again with a synthesizer. This one is 100 times better. This really, really fucking just sets the tone. This is those ambient kind of spooky, kind of mythical, kind of trance-like fucking background music that you'd get from a lot of like, you know, the interlude tracks and stuff. The spell tracks, isn't it? The stuff that would put you under a spell, that from the earlier stuff, and that is perfected here. You get a full album of it. This is what Baldur's Death should have been like. Baldur's Death, maybe a learning curve, I guess, for Varg. I don't know, but Hilidskjalf, I don't know how the fuck you say that, is beautiful. It is probably, oddly enough, the Burzum album that I go to the most. It's actually playing in the back of this video right now. Don't demonetize me, YouTube. Cheers, pal. And, you know, it's just beautiful. It is relaxing, and it's moving, and it's actually quite magical. I really do like this album. I love the album cover. I love the shirt. There's a really good shirt, which I've been meaning to buy for years, but I'll probably get cancelled if I wear it. But, you know, fucking, I love the art of this. Love it. Like, can you wear Burzum shirts in 2023? Is that allowed? Am I allowed to wear Burzum shirt in public? Will I go to a gig and wear Burzum shit? Will someone stamp on my head, on my neck? Probably. They'll probably try to, won't they? Fuck them people. Fuck those people that police what other people do. Listen to Burzum. It's fucking great. Fuck anyone who tells you not to listen to Burzum. Oh, but there's a million other bands that sound like Burzum. You know, you don't need to listen to a neo-Nazi murderer. Yeah, well, guess what? All those other bands that sound like Burzum are fucking shit. How's that for a fucking hot take? Anyway, moving swiftly on. Varg decided not to release any more albums whilst in prison using a toy keyboard. If Sputnik Music are to be believed. So he didn't release any more albums until he left prison, and that was in 2010, or maybe he left a little bit earlier than that, 2019, 2009 maybe, I'm not sure. But Varg came out of prison with a fire in his belly, and he released a brand new black metal Burzum album called Bellis. I'd like to say Bellis is a return to form because it's a 50-minute album of fucking amazing fucking black metal, right? It uses a drum machine now, I'm pretty sure, which is not the greatest thing in the world. I rather real drums. It sounds like a fucking drum machine anyway, and I listen to a lot of shit with drum machines in it, so maybe I'm wrong, but this album, the vocals, obviously Varg is not an angry little teenager anymore. He's done like 20 years or whatever in fucking prison. 17 years maybe he did. Done a long time. 17 years for murder is not bad going, is it? Fair play. If you're going to kill someone, move to fucking Norway. And don't get extradited. But yeah, I mean, this album contains one of the first, other than the intro song, the first song on here is a recording of the first song of what's the album called? Doughty Paul does. It's called Bellis Dod or Bellis' Death. So here it refers to Bellis' death rather than Baldur's death. I don't know what the difference. I did have Varg's book on sorcery in ancient Scandinavia or whatever the fuck it was called, and there's a lot of shit in there with all these gods and stuff all have like interchangeable names. It's very confusing. I gave that book away. I wish I'd kept it because I was quite young when I had it and I couldn't really get my head around it, but I'd love to read it again. But yeah, and then after that, track 3, is it Glemselin's Elve? Good luck getting that fucking right. River of Forgetfulness in English, 12 minutes. This is perfect. This is the song that I give to people when I talk about Varg Vikernes' guitar playing and what's so great about his guitar playing, because this is just beautiful. It is a fucking tapestry of riffs, all woven together and overlapping each other. It is beautiful. It is beautiful. So if you're not really a fan of the later Burzum stuff and you want to give it another shot, listen to track 3 from Bellis, Glemselin's Elve. The whole album is really good. I really like this album. Not too fussed on his vocal approach since coming out of prison. He kind of goes instead of screeching like a banshee with like, you know, a voice breaking like, you know, niche when he did the Pestering R stuff. But yeah, it's still good. It's still really good. It's still solid. It's still really, really enjoyable. And in the same vein, a year later, we get another album called Fallen or Valen. I mean, it would be perhaps wrong to go that Bellas and Fallen are the load and reload of Burzum's career, but that's kind of how it seems like. Fallen does seem like not quite as good as the one that came before it, and because it was released so quickly after it, and it's another like basically 50 minutes of solid, like, you know, Norse kind of influenced black metal. I don't think it feels like leftover songs from Bellas, however, because things start to develop here. We get more of a, like I said, Norse kind of Viking kind of feel, not quite in the same way as like Bathory, you know, and definitely not in the way all that fucking bullshit fucking Viking metal, like fucking Turisas and all that fucking weak ass fucking poser shit. Like, not like in the same as Bathory. There is that like Wotan fucking Thulean shit, that, you know, the ancient Scandinavian stuff that kinda almost becomes a bit racist that Varg is into. Doesn't bleed into his music. It doesn't, right? It doesn't. But you get that kind of vibe here. Perfect example being the second song, Jegfalla, I Am Falling, with the chorus. Oh, you know, starts going for more cleans, more fucking, I don't know. It's different. It's developing. It's changing. It's becoming more, dare I say, progressive. So, in that regard, I'm loath to say that it's, you know, Bellas and Fallen is like load and reload, because Fallen is moving on. It's developing the sound. So, yeah, pretty cool. The track 6 as well, called Budsticken. Always fucking reminds me of, like, you know, when you've got like some weed and it just won't come off. You're trying to break it up. It's like, oh, this is nice and crumbly, and you start breaking it up, and then it's all over your fingers. And it's like, oh, the bud sticking on my fingers. Anyway, let's move on. I'm starting to talk complete shit, more shit than usual. The third album in as many years, Umskiptar. Now, I'm not saying if I'm not probably fucking getting that wrong, but Umskiptar is more, again, that fucking style from Fallen, kind of going off again a bit more into the ether. This is probably my least listened to Burzum album. I think I've heard this like 3 times probably in like the history of Burzum. I know the project is done, right? So I might have to go back to this and give it another, fucking listen, because I really don't gel with this. It's kind of just there. It's not the best, and I don't have any complaints about the production. It's more or less even, just like the 2 albums that came before it. He's like cranking out albums in his house now he's out of prison, right? But there's just something about it which is just not very eventful. It doesn't really go anywhere. And for me, it was the low-key kind of death rattle to the metal black metal Burzum. There's no more black metal in Burzum anymore from this point. There's songs lean more towards, like I said, the Norse and Viking vibes than anything, dark and evil and coming from the forest and the screaming and all the rest of it. But that's not to say this album is bad. It's actually got its own kind of unique charm. The songs are pretty long and winding, or maybe they just feel that way because they're not as exciting. They have that trademark hypnotic fucking wasp-like weavery binding you into a spell, but it's great, and it's okay. It's okay, rather. But that's where Burzum and metal music, or guitar music at least, parts ways. And it's not the best. So it's kind of just like a wet fart of a cop-out, really. 2013 saw the release of Sol Ostan Manifestan. I'm probably saying that wrong. We know the score. And I think this is pretty great. Considering the Viking angle of the music went a bit shit with Umskiptar, I was very happy to get the ambient stuff back, because, when he does it right, I think it's really good. And I think Burzum's like ambient stuff gets a lot of undeserved crap for being what it is in, the prison era and in this era. So this album is, of course, no different from that, right? It's not as shit as Doughty Balders, but admittedly there is little variance between this and some of the albums that would come after this, right? But if hypnotic, almost like cosmic, man, synth work is your bag, then generally I think you can do no wrong in checking this out. Varg does invoke a consistent atmosphere across the songs, which some will highlight as maybe being boring or stale or just... But I guess it's a sense of perspective. If you don't like Varg's ambient electronic stuff, then you ain't gonna like this one. But you ain't gonna like anything Burzum does from this point, because it's all ambient music. For some reason, he just fucking dropped the metal, all of it at once, with Ump's guitar in 2012. He was like, right, guitar in the fucking bin, that's enough. And he released this. He also released another album within the next year, and it sounded a bit like this. In fact, this one this one has the one that I opened the video with, the some interesting fucking singing there, mate. I'll give you that. Also some pretty sus border going on that fucking album cover. Have a look at that. Very subtle. This was for a while the last Burzum album. This was like, it felt like forever this was going to be the last one. It came out in 2014, and it's basically kind of like Soliman Man Weston Part 2. I've only gone and listened to it a couple of times. And it's like a cheap imitation, I guess, of the early synth work. Granted, he's now using glossy fucking VSTs and like ancient, like synthesized versions of traditional instruments instead of using that fucking horrendous analog, fucking synthesizer or whatever used in prison. But there's so much good fucking dungeon synth out there now. The Ways of Yore kind of falls a bit flat. If you're going to listen to it, chuck some headphones on, and just go with it. It can be really nice. It can be quite magical, it can be quite trance-like, as I've kind of said about the other stuff, but really it just does just that. You're not going to come into this and think, oh wow, this is the best fucking Burzum album I've ever fucking heard in my entire life. Fucking amazing. I'm going to say that much. And that was it, really. Like I said, from Burzum until 6 years later, we had a fucking, out of the blue, a fucking double album that came from nowhere. Thulean Mysteries in March 2020, peak lockdown hours. Everyone was fucking, everyone was doing a Varg, going off grid and not leaving the house. That's what everyone was doing. And he probably thought it was a good time to release the final Burzum album. Apparently, this is music for the crappy fucking RPG that he's made. Like, he's made some sort of role-playing tabletop game. No idea, not into it, don't know, don't care. But this album is what he made. It's 90 minutes long. Oh boy. If you want 90 minutes of synthesizer music, then, crack on. The quality of this one seems to have taken a dive. The like sound quality feels like someone's whacked a bunch of MP3s onto a double album. I have the CD. I've got all the Burzum stuff on CD, and it just sounds a bit thinner compared to the others, but there is a lot of good stuff here, especially the stuff that kind of sounds more traditional, has elements of like Norwegian kind of, or Viking rather, folk music in there. I don't know what culture exactly it's coming from, but it's really nice. So it expands on stuff like the Ways of Yore and makes it a bit more spacey and a bit more, transcendental. You could just kind of chill out, put some headphones on, listen to it. It's really good. Don't have to worry about fucking dwarves and, fucking Dungeons and Dragons shit. If that's what it's about, then fine. But I don't think about that shit when I'm listening to it. I just kind of chill the fuck out. Bit of a strange one to go out on. He released a fucking single this year, actually. Just a single on its own. I think it's called the Reincarnation of Odin. And, and I'm thinking, September 2023. And I was thinking, is it going to be more Burzum? Is it going to be more Zum for me to chow down on? Clearly not. So the artwork for the Reincarnation of Odin, the single, it's just lifted from his RPG game. And the music, I'm pretty sure, gets used in like the YouTube videos that Varg used to do. I don't know what platform he's on now, but he got booted from YouTube and used to have these crazy YouTube videos, and he would have this like, fucking Odin music in the background. So yeah, that's it. That's fucking Burzum. I mean, that's pretty much petered out, right? But that's it. The project petered out, so the video's going to peter out too. Peter fucking picked a fucking pepper. So yeah, this is it. Controversial Artist 101. Fucking Burzum, Zamzam, Varg, Vikernes, Burzum, whatever the fuck you want to call it. One of the best fucking black metal bands in the fucking world. I don't give a fuck, you know, what the controversy is around the band. That's the fucking truth. So it warranted a discography deep dive. Maybe he'll do more. Hopefully he'll do more. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. Fuck this. Fuck you. I'm done with this bullshit. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers now. Bye.